We are on to module 2. And we'll agree that in any structured program, there must be a process. And therefore, we're going to look now at the before reading strategies. And these are those techniques that are prepared, that we use to prepare for reading the text, enhance comprehension, and engagement. Is there anyone that you're not familiar with? Okay, so we can move on. So we're going back into our next activity, activity 3. Our red group, you have a picture, you will use a picture, and based on what your note says about, your handout says about activating prior knowledge, you are going to activate, that's orange? Sorry. You are going to use that, you're going to use the picture that you have been given to get some prior knowledge to teach you for your pre-reading activity. Group 2, that's the green group. Your passage is turn, please. And with that passage, you are going to pre-teach vocabulary. Group 3, your passage is up over. And you're going to develop the KWL chart. Group 4, zebra crossings, which is, the yellow group. And you are going to do a graphic organizer of your choice. And group 5, you are going to brainstorm with AgroFest. So you plan to teach AgroFest, you do that passage with your students down the road, do your brainstorming. I think we can look at this activity now, and we are going to ask Group 1 to share with us, which is our orange, what I was saying right all along, that our orange group. I'm going to ask you to share.
Okay, for the start, the week before, we could create a weather chart for the week, recording the types of weather that would get children to start to think about the different elements of weather and how weather is presented. Then we could get them to listen to the weather news and report what was stated, and to focus on new terms, any unfamiliar words that are stated, and research what these words mean, and then share them with the class. That will improve your vocabulary, and get you to see different types of weather, because for our weather chart here, we mostly just have sunny days or rainy days, but then when you listen to it on the news, you will hear about the weather in other countries, and you would learn about other things other than just sun and rain. Ask the students to illustrate different types of weather, and to discuss the types of seasons we have here in Barbados, the wet and the dry season, and the elements of weather that are associated with those seasons, and to listen to and write both stories or poems about weather, and get them accustomed to expressing themselves and thinking about the different songs and experiences you have with weather.
That's it. Okay, thank you. Anyone other suggestions from any other groups that could add? You could have added, you didn't say explicitly, but into hurricane season, and you could actually then look at what happens during the hurricane season, because here your picture has somebody, I believe the house blew doors and they were running, trying to get a shelter. So you can talk about hurricane shelters, so you can get even a little deeper. I mean, so what happens at hurricane times, where you have to go to the various shelters, the dangers involved, cutting trees. So things like that could have also gone into that activity as well. Because eventually, your passage, if based on the age group of the children, will be on that picture. So the very young ones, they will have just the picture, but as you go, you might put a few sentences to go with your picture and so on. So you can still get your questions coming from a written passage. So we can use it at any level, but you will know how to bring it to suit. Good. So I'm going to go on to the next group. How are you going to pre-teach vocabulary for your time, please? And you have to you want to do this passage as a comprehension passage 2 or 3 weeks down the road. You want to pre-teach your vocabulary. How are you going to go about it? That's what essentially what you're doing. Because the children haven't seen the passage yet. They have not seen the passage. but you know that this is what you want to present in week 4 or 5, what vocabulary are you going to pre-teach?
Well, initially, the passage is called Time Please. So initially we were saying to introduce the children to the clock, the analog clock, so they can look at the face of the clock and know about the hour, the minute, the second, how it looks, the face of it, how the face looks. Then to be able to compare the analog clock to the watch, because the face basically will look the same, but the one is bigger and smaller and stuff like that. And we were also talking about dictionary skills, and we noted that there were some words that spelt the same, can sound different, have different meanings, like the word wound. And I said some children will look at it and say that's wound, but based on how it is in the passage, we would already talk about the watch and know how it works, and the things that will go into it in terms of batteries or whether it needs to be charged. Or so after introducing the clock and the watches, looking at the passage, we started to pick out some words that would need further explanation. So words, we started looking at things we would talk about with the watches in terms of quality, durability, brand, monetary value, how much these things would cost in comparison. We looked a lot at comparing, which is a word that they have here, comparatively. So we looked a lot at comparing the two and breaking down words that they would use to create the different words. So they would get the meaning of the word. Then we started to look at the words like adverse conditions that you would note down here that talked about special watches can function underwater or in adverse conditions, so that they can start to see for themselves underwater is one type, but what are other adverse conditions that they can look at watches will still function under. We looked at the life of your timepiece. What does that actually represent?
Continue. Somebody wants to say something else? Go ahead.
Okay. Even coming down to the end where it speaks about Big Bang, information can be given there. You can make reference to this Big Bang, because some children might have traveled already, so they will be able to speak towards Big Ben as being, one of those famous clocks found in London, which will look completely different than the ones that they wear on their wrists, or even the one that you will hang on the walls.
I'm going to ask you a question. Is there any clock in Barbados that you would want to reference as you talk about Big Bang? Is there any clock you can think of it, you can reference as you talk about Big Bang?
Yes, please. We can make reference to the one that is on Parliament, right, which kind of overlook the city, just as Big Ben does in London.
I saw the word perimeter.
That's a word that we did discuss, perimeter. Even if the children don't know it, we would, as it says here, we would tell them, find the sentence where you see this word. And
no,
then,
they haven't gone to this, but they haven't gone to this yet. They haven't seen the passage yet.
Perimeter.
We can include that in the math lesson, but not go in detail as to what a perimeter is. So we can tell them, as you look around the face of the clock, this is the perimeter of the clock. You can see, what do you see? You go through, you see the 12 numbers. These are all going around the perimeter of the clock's face, so that they know already
does this paper have a perimeter? Does this paper have a perimeter? So we're not only so again, you start to broaden. It has size, even everything has a perimeter. You start showing perimeter. Yeah. So remember that we are teaching area is all of this. But perimeter is this. So you're teaching information and we go back to, it's not something in itself. It's not something you teach, but it's an integration across the curriculum.
That is what we were
this
saying.
This is so important.
Integration.
Reading comprehension is not reading comprehension. Keep stressing that. It's not a 45-minute lesson that you give a passage and ask questions. That's testing comprehension. When you have reached that stage at the end of class, at the end of the year unit, when you're doing your promotional exams, that's when you're testing comprehension. Prior to that, you are teaching comprehension. So you knew you were going to teach this. You do all the things that are necessary to make sure when the child gets a specialist, no, nothing is strange. So you've talked about Big Ben in London. You've talked about where London is located, how far it is from Barbados, how long you have to take to get to, things like that. And then the children who have traveled before can say, Mom, we take real long to get there. Things like that. So all these are things you got to bring up as you prepare.
And
time difference, yes. Yeah, next thing, time difference. Mathematics, right?
Yes, please.
Good. So the idea is that all the vocabulary that you need to bring out. So you have the words like perimeter, comparatively. You had the durability. You had another word that might give some problem. Adverse might give trouble as well. Again, depending on the level of the child. Again, we're going to get to that, knowing that what level the child is at and so on. But you have to have an idea of your class and what words you have to teach that you beforehand to make sure when you show this passage that everybody's on the same page. And that's the idea with pre-teaching your vocabulary. Any questions on any of the groups? Anything you wish to add to that as we went through that one? Okay, so let's move to the next group. The crop over. That was the blue group. This is this group. Okay, so we're listening to this group now.
We had the KWL chart. So before we read the passage, it's about crop over. Tell us about crop over. What is crop over? It's a Barbados festival. There are bands and costumes. It has parades.
I want to put you on the spot.
Oh, Lord.
Go to the chart. Go to the flip chart. And let me see what you have on what you know, what you want to know.
Right.
No,
just K.
K. And then, the space, W, and then the L. But in class, you put know, what you know, and what you want to know. So that's just to see what you're doing. So what you know, what you want to know. So your passage was again crop over.
Crop over.
So let's hear what you asked your children for, what they knew.
What kind of festival is it?
They knew all
it's
this.
A Barbados
they knew
festival.
Things,
yeah, they
okay.
knew that it was a Barbados festival. They knew that there were bands and costumes. Lots of music. Dances and fetes. Competitions. It happened annually, every year. Tourists came, it attracts the tourists. And it's a cultural event. Then that was what we knew.
Okay. So based on the passage, what you want to know now?
What we want to know.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
When it occurs. Why it occurs. Where in Barbados things happen. The history of the festival. And so the specific events and celebrations. That was the end of what we wanted to know.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's move to the next one then. And we are at zebra crossings. I'll leave that one to last. Let's go to AgriFest, where they were brainstorming, our purple group. I'll say this too, when we ask a child to brainstorm, or an adult for that matter, when you ask about brainstorming, there are no right or wrong answers. You take every single answer that comes. So brainstorming means that all answers are correct until you start to decide which ones are the ones that don't apply. So brainstorming, every single thing you take during brainstorming. Let's hear you.
All right, so when we were brainstorming about AgriFest, we thought we would ask the children a few questions to kind of guide them. Things such as, what is AgriFest? Have you ever been? What do you see there, hear there, experience there? We came up with a list of possible things that they might say, such as animals, plants, toys, music, entertainment, food, cultural elements. And then we thought, after we had that kind of general idea of what AgriFest was, from their understanding, that we could start to pinpoint other areas that we could look at in terms of AgriFest, in terms of breaking down the word, understanding agro, having to do with agriculture, and fest, having to do with festival and so on. Expanding then to kind of like the purposes or reasons why we have AgriFest. So that's a family event, a cultural experience, to learn about farming, you know, all of those things. Blah, 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 blah. Right, and then to get them to start focusing in on perhaps elements of local agriculture, the traditional aspects of farming, wherever we wanted it to go from there. But from those jump-off questions.
Well, my colleague's done a great job, so.
Yeah, but you were adding something.
I would just say, sort of developing a bit more on what she was saying
Go
about
ahead,
the culture, that it's to let the children know that it's not what agriculture really means, and it's not just animals, it could be plants, it could be animals, and ask them if they grow anything at home, if they have animals, what their interaction is, just to try and bring it a little bit more down to earth and relate. And then we talked about the marketing side, where that's gone, and how it's possibly changed over the years, and how now I see that there's solar influences, there's more about irrigation, drip irrigation, trying to put modern ideas, integrating it with like basic old-fashioned ways of what agriculture is, and how the schools used to take the children and maybe why they don't take them now. And my colleague had reasoning that possibly they should be a little bit better organized. But yeah, I think that was pretty much where we were. And we also discussed like the cost, that children learn the cost, the value of money, and also the value of being out as a family. And not all children may have the opportunity to attend AgriFest if they're socio-culturally inhibited financially. So possibly they should go back to the schools to integrate it, but in a better managed way, so that they can also attend and get the cultural experiences.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Any other suggestions for this group? Anything you wish to add? Okay, so we'll now go to our zebra crossing scenes, and they have to do a graphic organizer of their choice, and that person will be encouraged to come to the flip chart and share.
All right, good morning, everyone. So we said we would, first of all, we can take our students to the zebra crossing. As we know, there's one outside of every school in Barbados, I think, at least primary schools. So we're going to go down there, give them the experience of having the crossing guard take them across, and then we're going to discuss. And we're going to use our concept map to go through and map out some of the things we think can happen in this story. So first, we're going to ask, what is a zebra crossing? So they're going to start to think, what is a zebra crossing? We know they will probably say black and white lines on the floor, anything like that. Then we're going to ask, what is it used for? It's used for helping us maybe get to school after mommy or daddy drops us off, helping us to cross the road carefully into the schoolyard. Where are they located? They would know the ones outside of their school, but then we get them to think beyond that. Maybe someone would have seen them as they approach roundabouts with their parents or by traffic lights. They may have used them at other places. Then we ask, who uses a zebra crossing? So we do, students we do, but then we see other pedestrians, which comes with the vocabulary also. So maybe they say people walking on the road. Then we get to introduce the word pedestrians, get them to use the language, how to use them. Again, we're discussing, how do we use them? Do we just run across because we're at the crossing? Do we wait? Do we wait on the traffic warden? If there's no traffic warden, then what should you do? Maybe we follow the traffic lights that we see. We wait for the crossing signal. If there's no crossing signal, what else do we do? And we also ask, why are they important? Why should we obey? Sorry, I don't have on my glasses. See? Yes, why are zebra crossings important, or why should the children themselves obey them? So we get to discuss maybe if there were no crossings, it would be difficult for students to cross. People would just drive without seeing them. The zebra crossing brings greater attention to the motorists that there's a need for someone to cross the road. And why should they obey? The children then road safety comes in, which can also be a social studies lesson. We should obey them so that we get home safe, we travel safely, we're not knocked over on the road. And that's it.
Thank you. Any other thoughts you wish to add from any other groups?
I was just thinking that out of it can come out a moral lesson on obedience.
I remember you talking about integration, yes.
Yes.
So yes, of course it could. Any other comments? Yes, please.
We can also ask the children to draw one in there for a visual arts lesson.
Yes, so and we are going to get into this just now, so yes. So again, the integration is so important. It's not a single thing for 45 minutes. So you all are stressing that continuously, and I'm hoping that that's what we're going to be doing when we're going to school as well.